Yeah.
You know, many Brazilian people will watch this video mainly after we put a subtitle here. But when they will listen to you, believe me, they will think, "Oh, I missed something. Is Frank talking about Brazil?"
Yeah.
Because the likeness is a lot. When you talk about a lot of communists in the press, when you talk about a lot of communists in universities, a lot of communists, at those who have been trained in Cuba. Well, we have doctors training in Cuba as agents here. We have a lot of journalists and press here. We have a lot of professors in our universities here. All of them have been trained in Cuba. Um, yes, it's kind of sad that people cannot see this reality. This fact. It's not.
Well,
Um,
your own president, Dilma Rousseff,
yeah,
she's the daughter of a Bulgarian communist, she was a terrorist in your country, and
yeah.
she, with Odeberg Corporation, which I think all of the executives are in jail now because they were giving money to the Workers' Party. But anyway, Odeberg Corporation is the one that built the Mariel port, $970 million. Roussel and Oderbrecht did that because the idea of the multinational corporations is to use the cheap labor of Cuba. The average worker in Cuba makes $20 a month. So why go to China when we can make Cuba the China of the Caribbean? And there is is one of the most modern ports in the world is the Mariel port, modern railroads, modern cranes, etc. So the idea is then to invest in Cuba, not because Cuba can buy anything from the United States, because Cuba is so poor, but they can then put factories in there, pay the workers $20 a month. You don't have to go to China. When 90 miles away, you got Cuba. And of course, your president was part of that to do that, to so yeah, it's yeah. And also Maduro training Cuba when he was young. And if we go to Colombia, the current president of Colombia, I have a picture of him with Fidel Castro when he was in his 20s, and now he's making peace with the FARC. I'm talking about Santos, the president of Colombia. So you see, it's everywhere. It's everywhere that Cuba is involved. And
Yeah.
and of course, Cuba has turned Latin America against the United States, completely. And the United States has allowed it. If we had a president that had some the wherewithal, they should have toppled the Cuban government for all the damage it has done to this nation, the United States, and for all the damage. Look how many people have died in Latin America because of Cuba. Thousands of people in El Salvador, in Guatemala, the FARCs that were supported and trained from Cuba. Thousands of people have died in Colombia because of Cuba. And then Cuba has helped Venezuela become communist, Ecuador, Bolivia, Nicaragua. Cuba was influential in getting the Sandinistas in power with the help of Carter, of course, who let them happen. And then to say nothing about Africa, the Cuban had an army in Angola of 50,000 troops for years. 500,000 Cubans fought in Angola. Imagine that. What is the national interest of Cuba in Angola? And he was doing on behalf of the Soviet Union. Cuba has soldiers in Ethiopia, in Somalia, in Libya. Cuba had 4,000 troops in Syria that fought against Israelis in one of those wars that they had. 4,000, a whole division of Cuba is fighting on behalf of Hezbollah in Syria. And then to say nothing that Cuba sent 3 torturers to North Vietnam who tortures our pilot, including John McCain. There were 3 Cubans, one of them who then became a general, and then his name was Alegret. He was a general and Minister of Higher Education, and he was a torturer in North Vietnam in the Hanoi Hilton, torturing our pilots. One of them, Kurt Cobain, actually was assassinated in the torture. And so look at all of this. And then, of course, they were torturing our pilots because the Soviet Union wanted to get information on our carriers, on our modern planes, and that's why they were torturing the U.S. pilots that were captured in Hanoi. So even there, Cuba has intervened in many African countries since the 1960s. Che Guevara led an army in El Congo, and some Bay of Pigs veterans, friend of mine, working for the CIA, they actually fought Che Guevara's army in El Congo and defeated Che Guevara in the Congo. But Cuba has intervened everywhere, in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America. Just this tiny little country of 12 million people, all this damage that has been done, and how the United States has allowed for 57 years to have this mafia of criminals in Cuba doing all this damage throughout the world. It's unbelievable that the United States has tolerated that, including the murder of a president, as we discussed earlier.